Is this just for us, or is this normal?
This is normal. He will greet you like this every single day. Imagine waking up to this, coming home to this.
Yes.
No!
You're all right with her being the ugliest dog in Britain, perhaps?
Oh my God!
Yes, she doesn't know any different. She doesn't know.
Have you
We
not
tell her
told
she's
her?
gorgeous.
Oh,
Not a flicker.
I just make it clear we love and all dogs, ugly, pretty, whatever they are.
He's just, yes, they're not there. They're gone. I just fell. Oh, get off. Get off. This is crazy.
I love you.
You don't have any makeup left.
Okay.
That's good. Okay. Gee. Anyway, these two dogs are absolutely fabulous. They need a wee bit of training.
Yeah, really, you think?
Why do we do this?
And is she spayed? Because
She's spayed.
it looks like she just had babies.
Yeah, no, her nipples. Yeah, no, she's spayed. You can see the stitches.
Okay,
This is. Ouch! Be
I'm
nice.
really tired.
You stop that.
Do you guys want some cheese?
Anyway, so sorry, SPCA, we're overrun with dogs.
You need.
In many previous videos, I've asked my audience to consider the impact of dog ownership on society. And today, we're going to go a little deeper, looking at the source of it all. In a previous video, I asked the question, where are all the dogs coming from? This video is an analysis and critique of dog culture. And while it may touch on many interrelated aspects, its primary focus will be on the source and origin of this sickness, which we have come to know as dog culture. Despite the fact that dogs are severely overpopulated, we are often told that we need to rescue them. But what exactly do they need to be rescued from? If you say from the streets or life in shelters, you have to ask this question first. How are dogs getting there in the first place? Why do they even exist? But first, consider the following harrowing facts. Despite how dogs are not a threatened or endangered species and do not need to be rescued from anything, they are severely overpopulated and their numbers multiply while many native species go extinct. And not only that, they are pushed and promoted more aggressively than anything else.
The following is from a Reddit thread titled,
Received such a welcome reality check.
My mental health has been abysmal, and everyone keeps telling me to get a dog, even my counselor. I owned a terrier once, and he was chill, so I started to consider it. Well, my friend went into the hospital, and he had no one else to watch the dog, so I agreed. Thank God I did, because now I'll never be getting one. The dog was greasy, needy, whiny, stinky, and the only way I'm ever going to get all that hair out of my couch is if I light it on fire. I physically gagged picking up its giant turds, and it splashed its saliva-ridden backwash all over my floors. I hated being the center of this thing's existence. I hated petting it because that just meant more hair that I'll be picking out of my food for years to come. Phew. Back to my peaceful, manageable existence.
How's that for truth in advertising?
About dogs.
Although I must say, I don't know how this person was ever okay with having a terrier before this, or any dog, as all of them are disgusting, aggressive, and obnoxious at a minimum.
What we're really up against here is the dog industrial complex, and, more broadly, the pet industry. The dog industrial complex refers to a network of businesses, organizations, and practices involved in the breeding, maintenance, marketing, advertising, and sale of dogs, and associated products and services. This includes breeders, pet stores, veterinary services, pet food manufacturers, grooming services, training facilities, and other related businesses. The dog industrial complex is basically a subset of the broader animal industrial complex, which is involved, for profit, in the exploitation and commodification of animals. This industrial behemoth encompasses industries like pet food, veterinary care, and dog-related products as well, and is part of a larger system that treats animals as commodities for economic gain. It also has absolutely no regard for public health and all the negative externalities entailed.
The following section is a brief excerpt from a paper I have cited and posted before. It's called Beware of Dogs, a 4-page manifesto on the ills of dog ownership. Keep in mind, however, that some of the numbers in that paper are now outdated.
The pet industry in the United States stands at over $100 billion in annual revenue, and the global market is estimated at over $200 billion as of 2020. Exponential growth has been cited since due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Dogs comprise the majority of this in volume, revenue, and net profit, as they are the largest, most common, and most expensive house pet to own, with a typical cost around $15,000 over the course of their lifetime. This is inclusive of pet food, pet toys, and veterinary care, all in a corporatocracy that is controlled by primarily just two companies, Mars and Nestlé. The pet products from these companies have higher profit margins and, in the case of Mars, bring in more overall revenue than their human consumables. Following the top two companies, other major players with significant, albeit smaller shares include Hill's Pet Nutrition, General Mills, Blue Buffalo, and J.M. Smucker. The industry is further characterized by heavy investment in digital engagement and premiumization, with these companies often acquiring smaller, niche, and high-growth brands to expand their market presence.
Beyond all the negative externalities that affect the rest of society, dog ownership does something very strange to dog owners themselves. These obsessive enablers have effectively enslaved themselves to the cause of dogs. Everything in their lives, all their goals and motives, revolves around pouring themselves into this external objective, and by that I mean external to themselves. Unfortunately for everyone else, this isn't something that quietly happens in the background. Dog ownership, as we know, is not a benign activity with no social impact or carbon footprint.
On my block, a lot of people walk their dogs, and I always see them walking along with their little poop bags, which to me is just the lowest function of human life. If aliens are watching this through telescopes, they're going to think the dogs are the leaders. If you see two life forms, one of them's making a poop, the other one's carrying it for him, who would you assume is in charge?
I'm sorry! Hey, do you mind if I borrow some blanket? Oh, okay. Sorry.
And where are all the animal rights activists on the dog problem?
One thing dogs are most renowned for is their aggressive and predatory nature toward anything that moves. Little known fact, we actually lose many koalas to these horrid beasts and nothing is done. Here is once again a dog doing what dogs usually do by being a pest among nature because of lack of intervention by humans, who caused this problem. Dogs don't even usually eat their victims either. It is a sadistic trait dogs have. Dogs are just insane beasts that have no self-control. I would actually love to see this bison kick this mutant's skull through its buttocks.
The following is also from a Reddit thread titled,
Vets are more vulnerable to suicide and crazy pet owners are part of the reason.
and yes, this refers to veterinarians. And of course, we just know that when they say PAT, in quotes, we don't mean hamster or goldfish owners. Gee, I wonder, what could they possibly be referring to?
This article is about how veterinarians are considerably more likely to commit suicide than the rest of the population, and it gives various reasons for why this might be. I noticed that one of the reasons given is that vets have to deal with a lot of pet owners, and that these pet owners are often extremely abusive and toxic. Here's an example.
The incident involved a 4-month-old German Shepherd puppy who'd swallowed a skewer and needed emergency life-saving surgery. The cost of the complicated procedure and aftercare was close to $10,000, more than the owner could afford. As a last resort, to avoid euthanasia, the clinic offered her the option to surrender the puppy to a new owner who could cover the cost. When the former owner's story of attempting to get the puppy back aired on local television, it unleashed a social media maelstrom, Maine Veterinary Medical Center wrote in a statement. They received hourly threats to burn down the hospital and to kill our staff and their families. Our phone lines have been deliberately jammed so that real emergency calls cannot get through.
While I feel sorry for the vets, the reason I am sharing this article is because I think it's a good example of how dog obsession is a symptom of mental illness. It's probably not a coincidence that the above story of death threats revolved around a dog and not a pet bird or turtle. There is something about dogs that taps into the psyche of mentally vulnerable people and can make them absolutely bonkers.
Social progress has been a prevailing tendency throughout human history, driven by fundamental philosophical and evolutionary imperatives. This striving for social betterment is not confined to individual advancement. Rather, it extends to collective societal improvement. As human social development evolved over time, the desire to alleviate suffering and enhance overall well-being became paramount. This intrinsic motivation underlies the historical trajectory of social progress, as societies continuously seek methods to improve their living conditions through innovation, collaboration, and shared values. This is not the story of technological development alone. It is also the story of the seemingly eternal struggle for human emancipation. So why the fuck are we doing the whole dog thing? In most places today, we have toilets and sanitation requirements for business establishments. Yet, at the same time, we allow a segment of the population to own a disgusting artificial animal that engages in open defecation in common areas.
Dogs are the only vicious and actively dangerous predatory animals we have to look out for in towns and cities.
And they're the only animal that meets the exacting definition of both a pest and a parasite that society actively encourages the presence of. And, unfortunately, this is all very profitable, as I wrote myself on the dog-free subreddit 3 years ago.
Dogs in their current form exist entirely because of capitalism, as various industries profit off their existence, and vast marketing campaigns promote these things as family staples in every home.
Of course, there have been a few different things that popularized dogs over the years and within the last couple of centuries. One of them was the modern dog show. It's worth noting, though, that with perhaps incredibly rare exceptions, people haven't been as insane about dogs as they are since starting only in about the early to mid-2010s, perhaps starting out in the mid to late 2000s and getting progressively more extreme and out of control within only the last 5 to 10 years. For reference, this was originally posted in January of 2020.
Popularity of dogs is strictly so because of hype and marketing. I have a part-time job in financial services. We hired a company that sends out marketing emails to clients. Today I got an email from the company asking which email I would like to send out this week. The first one was related to the stock market. Okay, fantastic. The second one is entirely about dog breeds. As I read through this article, I wanted to see how they are connecting this back to financial services. There was no connection whatsoever, just information about new dog breeds. Like, what the absolute why would this be an appropriate email? Let me guess. Dogs are some magical creatures, and by showing you are interested in them makes us automatically likable. Must be nice to have a shortcut to prove one's a good person. I, without a doubt, chose to send the one actually related to financial services. This is dog culture. It is 100% pure mind manipulation through marketing. These consistent reminders that they exist and we must get one.
Things have gotten a lot worse over the last 10 years, and an entire culture has cropped up around the idea of dogs being something far, far beyond what they are. And what they are is opportunistic vultures because that's how they get their needs met. However, dogs were never meant to be in the wild. They were bred for captivity. Most dogs would live approximately 5 more minutes if they were suddenly let free. They are far too stupid without much instinct for survival, other than conning people into feeding them and sheltering them. And the ones that lived would be a complete menace to everyone around them. Dog attacks would increase by a lot. They would form packs that would become a true menace. This is what happens with street dogs in other countries. They are considered nothing but vermin in places like that.
My focus on this channel has been on the presence of dogs and dog culture. However, as I've said before, and as others have noted as well, all of that is really a symptom, or perhaps a manifestation, of something far deeper. The main message here is simple. Everything about modern life is getting worse. This is something I've noticed myself, and I have seen a few videos with interesting takes on different aspects of it right here on YouTube. Of course, sociologists and economists have long noted that modern life, especially under capitalism, is alienating and unfulfilling. But lately, it seems as though everything is increasingly like that, and there's a dimension to life that goes beyond things related to politics or economics. It's an overall suck, a shittiness, a staleness. I've noticed myself that people in general are getting more apathetic. There's a whole permissive parenting thing going on that's doing far more harm than good. Although the widespread and largely unacknowledged straight-up child abuse that has been the norm in most cultures for far longer than it hasn't, is not great either, and is clearly the other extreme. That is obviously one example only, but the bottom line is this: life is getting worse over time. A lot of it, I believe, is due to the role of technology in our lives at present, as well as the existence of social media and cell phone culture. The frustration I've personally experienced on here, simply trying to do this activism on this website, is really a microcosm of how disconnected and alienated everything is now. This point is super important, so I really do have to reiterate it. There's no good reason to own a dog at all in this day and age, especially if you are living in the city. This obscene, extreme, and most unseemly culture continues to proliferate, but it is impossible to justify, and the costs are simply way too high. Again, just from a public health and safety standpoint, dogs are awful. And ultimately, the core issue is, as always, the presence of dogs itself. When will we live in a world where the truth is finally accepted on a large enough scale that dogs can just not be a thing anymore?